Greetings, greetings, greetings. Come on in. All is a blessing. All is a blessing. It is another powerful edition of Revolutionary Voodoo, New Orleans Voodoo Secrets and Recipes. All is truly and indeed a blessing. If you can just see beyond the veils, for it is all just an illusion and a test and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. Come on in Facebook, come on in Twitter, Periscope, come on in EarthCam, wherever you are viewing and listening to me right now. Come on in YouTube, StreamYard. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Peace and love, joy and prosperity. Come on in. Premier, Nina, Lord, number one today. Greetings, beloved, greetings and salutations to you and yours. Always humbled and honored in service. Love to see your face in the place. Greetings, beloved, greetings and salutations. Come on in. It's going to be a great show. Come on in, share your story, share your testimony. What has the hoodoo, voodoo, conjure, and root work done for you, beloved? Come on in. Come on in. Come on into the fold. Come on in. Come on in. All is a blessing. Shamafia Rothschild. Greetings and salutations, one and all. To you and yours, Aboru, Aboye, Aboshishe, Alafia, beloved, greetings to your divine, all blessed family as well. All is a blessing. We always honor the ancestors. We stand on the shoulders of great and mighty ancestors, powerful ancestors who are pushing us forward in this present moment in time, space. Come on in. All is a blessing. Yes. You know something's going on. Come on in. Peace and blessings. Ashley, Anthony, come on in, beloved. All is a blessing. Greetings and salutations. I will be forward momentarily. I'm here. All is a blessing. I'm behind that pretty avatar. I'm here. Come on in. Come on in. All is a blessing, beloveds. All is a blessing. Greetings, greetings. Come back home. Come back home. It's Wednesday, August 11, 2021. Come on in, come on in. Greetings and salutations. Come on in. Yes. Welcome, Blog Talk Radio. I'm always grateful for my international Blog Talk Radio audience. Indeed, this community has reached. Welcome, Hong Kong. Welcome, Australia. Welcome, the UK. Welcome, Canada. Welcome, United States. Indeed, I'm grateful for you, Democratic Republic of Congo. Greetings, Kenya. Greetings, South Africa. Come on in, Ghana. Come on in, Nigeria. Come on in, Cameroon. Welcome, 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 Brazil. Welcome, Argentina. Welcome, welcome. Come on in, Nigeria, Bawani. All is a blessing. Greetings and salutations. Alafia, Alafia. Peleo, Yuhuru Waku, Jambo, Akwaba, Kedu, Bawoni, Eshuele guana kosi were awo nlo uto ne iwo ada afanbo osi o batala me itan ni ebo onilio abane shu. Eshu is the respected elder who flogs, confronts, and uncovers fools. That one versed in mysteries uses truth to own you. He causes scatter to feed poverty, Obatala shakes rascals to have sacrifice. The owner of warnings is the one who is Eshu. Aboru, Aboye, Aboshishe, Ashe. May I ever reach a room. May I ever be accepted. May I ever allow what we desire to come to pass. And so we say Ashe, Asheo, and Ashe. Divine all blessed peace and love, joy and prosperity, elevation, relevation, revelations, and manifestation. We are indeed now sitting again live with House of the Divine Prince, Thai Potions, Hoodoo Central, in this beautiful, historic, most enchanted city in America, New Orleans, Louisiana, the land of my ancestors and those who came before me along this Hoodoo Obey a life path and journey, passing down the great Obia stick along with the knowledge of the life-giving herbs, roots, plants, rituals, spirits, minerals, and indeed our sacred stories. I'm always humbled and honored and appreciative to be forward with you in this shared sacred space that we all self-create here at high noon US Central Standard Time. It's a different time, whatever zone you might be existing in this international audience. But indeed, it is high noon U.S. Central Standard Time here in Louisiana. And I am sharing with you in all things spiritual, mystical, metaphysical, cosmic, evolutionary, revolutionary, healing, and holistic from a Pan-African Hoodoo world spiritualist perspective. Understanding that all is truly and indeed a blessing. If you can just see beyond the veil, sometimes you got to close your eyes to see beyond the veils. Some of y'all understand. For it is all just an illusion and a test, a challenge, and one of the greatest divine mysteries of this life cycle. Why are we here? What is our purpose? Raison d'etre. So indeed, it is always humbling to be given the opportunity to affirm and reverberate and reiterate my ever-living reality with you and for you in this shared space. It is indeed about demonstration. It's more than just herb knowledge and memory and recipe knowledge and memory and how to burn a candle and how to dress a candle. It's so much deeper than that. Indeed, it pulls at our wisdom. Indeed, it pulls at our heart. Indeed, it pulls at our soul purpose. And we live in a society today designed to detach us, to separate us from our soul purpose. There are many distractions, many distractions. Legitimate distractions might be a relative usage of words, but indeed there are distractions. People got bills to pay, people got stomachs to feed, people have housing to maintain, people have lives to live, people have bodies to heal and to bring wellness to. People have hearts and souls that need to be healed and brought wellness to. So I want to reiterate the value and the purpose and the sacredness of indeed this shared space and why we're here. You might find me entertaining. You might find me comical. You might find me serious. But indeed, I'm here to fulfill the ministry of ATR, traditional African-based religious systems. Indeed, they feel familiar to you. Indeed, they intersect with you. Indeed, they harmonize with you. For all things come out of the belly and the womb of the great mother, Mother Africa. And that's not just Black nationalism. That's not just Afrocentricity. That is science that says that the Black womb gave birth to humanity. And so indeed, we always open and acknowledge and show honor and gratitude to our ancestors and those who came before and those who laid the foundation for which we now stand. Understanding that they're not gone from us. They haven't disappeared. They haven't blown away as dust in the wind. For indeed, they support us upon our shoulders, upon their shoulders, the great ancestors support us and keep us. That is not just voodoo, that is science. Science now agrees that ancestral memory survives and is maintained in our blood. So today, as in all days, but particularly this Wednesday, August 11th, 2021, I am emanating and vibrating with you and for you now, live, virtually, verbally, cosmically, quantum universally, from this working temple of the House of the Divine Prince. And I am always grateful to help in the creation of sacred space, which is indeed critical to all that we do, we say, we represent, to all that we be. For indeed, we are being watched, we are being observed, we are being absorbed, not just by your loved ones or your children or your inner circle or your peers or your co-workers, but indeed, we are society. We are the populace. We move life in America and in whatever country and region of the world you are listening and observing me right now. So as spiritualists, as religious and spiritual leaders, as cultural leaders and activists and advocates for wellness and change, understand that we rest upon great shoulders. And if you can envision that in your imagination, your ancestors standing, supporting your feet with their hands, and they're sitting upon, we're sitting upon their shoulders and they're supporting our feet in their hands. And then the next generation sits upon the shoulder and we support their feet in our hands. And those of us who are living now, whether you have children or not, indeed you have nieces, nephews, cousins, brothers, sisters, siblings, peers, community, you are now setting the foundation, holding the feet of the generation that's going to come after you. And not just after you transition, but right now, in this most present time while you're living. This is the magic moment right now. The past is a memory. It is a memory. The future is just an imagination, a creative imagination. But it is indeed this present moment in time space that we live in, that we exist in, that we have our very being in. And so let's talk about the fold. Let's increase the fold. Let's re-examine what the fold is and who the fold be in 2021. Some of you hear Christian energy or feel Christian energy and hear Christian attachments to the fold. But I beg to offer that indeed this community right now, those who are here in this space right now, virtually, literally, figuratively, wherever you are observing and hearing right now, we indeed are the fold. And I offered to my beloved mother this morning, that Evangelist Savage, that indeed we are the future. And there will be many imams, many pastors, many bishops, many priests who won't be happy about the shift, and won't be happy about this shift for the wrong reasons. For indeed, the fold is just a place of consciousness and righteousness and development and evolution, and healed people creating and recreating a space that continues to heal people and then produce great kings and queens and warriors and rulers and leaders and activists and artisans of all shapes, size, and indeed colors. So I beg of you to utilize your device, utilize your internet connection that you pay that bill for every month. Utilize this space to share, but also to create and recreate the reality that mirrors your best interest. For indeed I offer to you that this is the community, this is the village of now, but indeed of the future. Many would like to see us turn the clock back to the 50s. Many of us would like to see us turn the clock back, to pre-civil rights legislation. Many would like to see us turn the clock back to Negroes knowing their place and operating within a system of enslavement. We've got to understand that there are many tools in the operation of that system. And it's not just iron and steel and machinery and mechanics, for indeed that plays a role. But as that great magical book says, we wrestle not against flesh and blood. That's the illusion. The reality is we wrestle against spiritual wickedness in high places, principalities, principles, spiritual wickedness in high places, rulers of the darkness of this world, those who would indeed seek the continued comatose state of 2/3 of the world so that 1/3 of the world can survive and live without guilt, without attachment, without reservation, without responsibility for the whole and how we affect the whole. So let's not continue to operate in the Western mindset of me, myself, and I, and it's just about me right now, and it's just about how I get mine right now. For indeed, you're in your getting, in your growth, in your development, in your progress. We all progress. We all grow. We all develop. We all learn and find and see a new way to survive. So I want to talk today and share today and offer you both my Blog Talk Radio audience at area code 845-277-9143. You can also join us here live now with your cam and come right on screen with us. Please forgive me. As you can see, my cousins aren't with me right now, so I'm a little slow on catching up to the chat, but you can join us in the chat. You can also follow the link that's scrolling and popped on just now and join us in the conversation. I want to hear your experiences. I want to hear your history with voodoo, hoodoo, conjure, root work, African traditional religions. Greetings, cousin, beloved Lakitha. How you doing, girlfriend? How you doing? Greetings, S. Marie, Matt, Austin, Bay. Greetings, Alexis Williams. Apollon, greetings, beloved. Shamafia Rothschild. My cousin is in the chat. Aboru Aboye, Abushishe, Divine, Baba Oloye and family. I'm driving and almost home, but she will be coming through. So we welcome you, beloved cousins. Two of my cousins in the house. All is a blessing, beloved. There's nothing to be felt forgiven for. We're busy. We're busy, and I understand. And you have children, so I get it. I get it. Shamafia says, Mama Otun, we are honored to have you whenever you come in. You are always on time. Yeah, she's always on time. And of course, the royal queen mother is in the house, Evangelist Gary Vontel Savage. My beloved mother, greetings to you as well. We always are honored and humbled and appreciative of you coming on through. My cousin, first cousin, Mosaic, the soul's poet. Greetings, beloved. She's also so happy to be here and with the family. This is always a family reunion for me of sorts, literally and figuratively. I'm always honored when my family, my blood family come through, and then I'm grateful when my spiritual family shows through. Here is the Baba Oloye. He's back into the education field. He looks forward to seeing us all very soon, but he indeed sends his peace and love. So we're grateful. Greetings, greetings. Greetings, Mr. R, beloved. I have no idea who you are, but greetings. We certainly appreciate your joining us. So we certainly are having a family reunion. Summer's about family reunion and community and block parties and coming together. The fitness girl, yes, she's a long-term listener, participant, and co-host to the show. Siobhan the goddess, greetings, beloved. Greetings and salutations to you and yours. I don't know, it's something about your cheekbones that just gives me Aretha Franklin. Yes, you are so beautiful, honey. Greetings, greetings, Santa Muerto. Bless us with the greatest cloak of knowledge to evolve our ori. Ashe, Ashe, Asheo. Do you do work studies? Work studies. Um, as literate as I sound and as articulate as I am, DP beloved, another regular co-host and listener participant, I need some kind of definition of what you mean by work studies. I was asked a similar question in another platform the other day, Mysteries in Motion, still featured at the Presbyterian Museum in Jackson Square, the Louisiana State Museum, oldest museum in the state. Mystery in Motion, it's a exhibit featuring Black masking carnival tradition, of which I'm greatly featured. And a question was asked in a symposium just recently in the last week about, do I teach classes? And so again, I need to redefine, I think we need to redefine work study, classes. What exactly does that mean? Because in the politically correct environment of the West, we say class, so anybody can pay and anybody can take and earn credit or earn a grade or earn a skill or earn a certificate. But when we're looking at voodoo, hoodoo, Akan, Fan, Ewe, Yoruba, and that's why the knowledge of the ethnic connection is critical. Because when we say voodoo to the unlearned, it's very general, it's very limited in its scope. Or the vice versa. It's so broad that in their mind it encompasses many things that aren't exactly ATR. So I believe that one should be born into this tradition. And if we were in our most appropriate, unscathed environments, no colonizers, no oppressors, no mid-Atlantic trades, of slaves, or of enslaved Africans, I should say, we would be born into our ethnic group. We would be born into our lineage. We would know our ancestors to invoke, to acknowledge. For the family, for the community, we would know certain deities to invoke and acknowledge. The mid-Atlantic slave trade literally created a new pathway for ATR, no matter which ethnic group or branch. Look at it as a sieve of sorts, and we pass through that, and now every lineage is reborn, renewed, takes on some new elements, has to evolve, has to grow to fit a new environment. Some would suggest the Loa wanted that. Some would suggest the Orisha wanted that. Some would suggest that God wanted that, to grow, to expand now in a new place. I'm not talking about enslavement, but to, in spite of enslavement, to continue to grow and develop the powers of our ancestral awareness to a new level. And so I think people should have a commitment. People should feel some level of loyalty, not to me or to the practitioner or to the house or even to your particular lineage within these traditions, but to the ancestors and to the Most High, to be as full of integrity as possible, morality as possible, not to trade and sell the culture, not to use the culture, as a crutch for very Western sort of notions. So this is you've been here for a while, so I'm not talking about your question specifically, but just how it shows up in the world. One of my complaints about our sacred space in Congo Square is seeing, a white tour class teaching people how to make voodoo dolls at the Sacred Tree in Congo Square. One, voodoo dolls being something very Western and commercial and imaginative and creative and outside the bounds of authentic voodoo. The real history of authentic voodoo not being attached to that. And then doing it at the sacred space. So I'm nervous when people say, do you teach classes? I'm nervous when people, so I respect you. So I want your definition of a work study. You might be able to help me to evolve that in my own thinking of a work study that doesn't violate our mysteries, our secrets, our protocols, our traditions, our ancestors. There's a big debate in TikTok and in social media right now about teaching, once coded languages that we needed for our own survival, to avoid the oppressor, to avoid the slave catcher, to avoid, mutilation and brutality, now being widely available and now popularized in social media. And so there's some queens that are really upset about that. And I've seen many videos. People are really worked up about, teaching these once coded, secret, mysterious, languages and dialects that our enslaved ancestors used for survival to communicate great things among each other. Understanding we were in an environment where they thought we was dumb and ignorant anyway, didn't want us to read. So, they heard gibberish. They thought it was gibberish. They expected it to be gibberish. And it took them, some 400 years to now Google it and Bing and find out that, we, again, averted their system with our own ingenuity and our own creativity. So I like to be available to all. So I have things that I share and teach internationally, nationally, locally, and then those things that are within the dynamics of the family, the initiated, those who are committed to the systems and indeed the traditions. I don't turn down readings unless it's foolishness. I don't turn down readings or an opportunity to, consult the Afa, for information about destiny, for messages about our destiny, how we should act, how we should move, how we should protect, defend, cleanse at any particular moment in our interactions. But indeed, people who have a particular request, love and relationships, career, education, health, wellness, finances, and that's sort of the end of the road for their interest. I tend to focus on that request. I don't go into deeper levels of information. I don't go into explaining a whole lot. Much like at the doctor's office, how many of you, and I know it's going to be at least one or two in the group, but how many of you, question what's in that, did you clean that? Who sat in this chair before? We don't often do that. We could say the same thing about the grocery store. Some of you still don't read food labels. Some of you still don't care what's in your food. But we get real specific about what's going on in these rituals, in these ceremonies. And often the motivation is for people who want to subvert, avoid initiation, avoid sitting and learning from elders, avoid absorbing the knowledge and experience of others, and think there's a quick shortcut into sort of working as practitioners. So that whole, as you can see, class, workshop, it's all a trigger for me. And I need my queens. I trust the power of Iyami. I need my queen mothers, goddesses to help me to better understand how I should think about classes beyond initiations, how I should look at those things and how I should reach out to a greater audience without sort of okay, Otun, I'm confused, beloved. But give me a second. I'm gonna get unconfused. So you're in the chat, so you can't you see the link, right? But that's not working for you. I'm not being shady. I'm just asking. Okay, so now it's in the Facebook Messenger. And let's pray till there's no problem. Greetings, Ashley Allen. Greetings, Angel. Beloved, help me understand those initials behind your name. But greetings, Angel. Mrs. Jones, me and Mrs. Jones, howdy family. How you doing? Thank you for coming by again. DP, maybe not exactly initiation, but learning under you. See, that's where it gets complicated for me. That's where it gets complicated for me, because we had to learn, when we say throwing the bones, for instance, for me, that's akin to throwing shells. That's akin to pounding palm nuts, for which, there are many books on the market that teach that talk about that go into great detail about that, for which I have no feeling for. Do your books, read your books. And I strongly suggest people read, learn, have an understanding of that process when you come to the mat, when you come to the table. We like the well-educated client. We ain't got to spend a whole lot of time teaching, educating, explaining, going into detail. But learning to throw the bones, for me, is something that should be learned, taught under initiation, within the dynamics of a tradition. Even if we're talking about hoodoo, conjure, root work, apprenticeship has been a part of the historic record since the record of hoodoo and conjure and root work has been kept. So the idea that, again, DP didn't say this, I'm just speaking to it in a more general context. The idea that you somehow don't need initiation to, pick up these books at the bookstore and do root work, conjure, etc. I just don't suggest it. And Otun, I'm sure, is going to have her own opinion about it. In my own practice, in my own ministry, in my own clientele, I've seen it to be extremely problematic. Extremely problematic. I'm going to give you one quick example. We say, oh, well, I just want to learn to throw the bones. I'm not trying to, invoke Orisha. I'm not trying to invoke Loa, but you are. The minute you get into bones. In fact, bones, invokes the word egun. The word egun in Yoruba directly translates into English as bone. It symbolically is representative of the dead for us. In greater sense, the ancestors for us. Egun, the spirit or Orisha of the dead, if you will, that possesses the carnival suits, that possesses the ancestral suits during the masquerade, and then starts speaking the voice for the ancestors. Egungun, 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 the ascended ancestors, the elevated. I don't understand. Of course you don't understand, Google, because I'm not talking to you and you don't speak Yoruba. Okay, so forgive me for that. So we are invoking spirit. Even in the bones, you're invoking the dead. You're invoking Egun. You're invoking Galede. You're invoking Gede. You're invoking all the Berans in just the actions in throwing the bones. And one of my most popular videos on YouTube, for those of you who've never looked at, my top 5 videos or my top 10 videos, there's one about what people don't know or don't tell you about not only psychic reading and spiritual reading, but the utilizing of these tools. For indeed, there are spirit forces, spirit powers connected to these tools, even tarot cards. I don't suggest turning over tarot cards when you're not in a legitimate reading. I don't suggest using tarot cards to practice learning tarot cards. If you want to learn tarot cards, read the book. Understand the dynamics of the deck. Do some research, but don't start, every time you start turning over cards, you're flipping fates. You're mixing up your fates. You're recirculating energy every time. Every time you do it for a client, every time you do it for yourself. And when you do it for a client, you are also doing it for yourself. Same belief system in Ifa. Same belief system in Ifa. When you come to a Babalawo, a Ianifa, a Hogan, whomever, and they're throwing bones, throwing shells, and they're quote unquote doing divination, reading you, their own energy is caught up now in what's happening on that table and what's happening on that board. So not only might they give you homework, we too got to do homework. We might have to cleanse. We might have to burn certain things we use in that reading because it was so hot, or it was so egregious, or it was so negative. That energy has to go somewhere. And for those Bible readers listening to me right now, it's in the Bible. Go back and read the Bay of Pigs. Go back and read the Bay of Pigs. And the Christ sent the demons, sent the jinns. They said, we got to go somewhere, send us somewhere. And he sent them into the pigs, and the pigs ran into the water. Read that story. Because for my quantum metaphysical listeners, all energy that ever existed in the universe was created at the Big Bang and is here for the duration. For the duration. So when you're cleansing, that energy has to go somewhere. That toxicity has to go somewhere. When you eliminate, you don't do it in your living room. You don't do it in your bedroom. We did a few hundred years ago, in the pot, but we don't do that anymore. And it has to go somewhere, right? It has to be carried somewhere, or it's got to be flushed somewhere. And so it goes back into nature. It goes back into creation to be utilized somewhere else in creation for the good. It's built into the yin-yang sign. Half black, half white with the swirl, the yin-yang sign. It's representative of duality, positive, negative, duality, necessary for our survival, necessary for our reality. So I know I said a lot about classes, teaching, initiation. It's for me. And again, DP, I'm not in conflict with Louisa Tesh or Maureen Gonzalez Whippler or Tanya Pillar or any of the modern book authors that, I'm not in. Do your thing, writers. Do your thing, literary artisans. There's space for artisans and artisans, whether it's creating painting, sculpturing, wood, writing, dramatic art, performance art. Artisans take creative license. This we already know. This we already understand. I just draw a line between performance, artisans, demonstration, and real ceremony and real sacred space. Even in the performance in Congo Square or in the performance of a created sacred space out in the community where we might be celebrating Mayaka or Kwanzaa or some other holiday or someone's homegoing, someone's transition, like our second line. People see our second lines. I share the second line, especially on my TikTok. And that's a sacred space. It's a funeral. It's a sacred space. We're acknowledging the passing away, the transition from flesh to spirit of a human life. And we're in celebration mode, beating those tamarines. And we doing that second line. And people are dancing on rooftops and on top of fences and carrying their umbrellas, and to you, it's a party. To you, it's just a celebration. To the outside visitor looking on, they start questioning a little bit. Oh, is that sacrilegious? Is it wrong for me to dance along with y'all? No, we're celebrating that life. We're celebrating that transition of spirit from one dimensional space to the other. But you can't say that because you witnessed the second line, you saw and understood and absorbed the dynamics of voodoo that permeates the pores and the surfaces of that celebration, that demonstration. And for those of you who are just not hearing that for the first time, it's all voodoo. The second line is voodoo, baby. The jazz is voodoo, you know, and how we put that together in demonstration here in New Orleans is unique in the world. It's unique on the globe. And it is why I love my city. It's why I take great pride and honor in the culture and the tradition and practice of New Orleans. We're said to be the most Caribbean city in this hemisphere. We're said to be the most African city in America. And I try to share that, demonstrate that with you, you know, in this space. But teaching and Orisha, beloved Orisha, Chef Bougie, many others among us will tell you that it's not the same thing as initiating with me. It's a great deal that I don't say on air. It's a great deal you don't hear on air. It's a great deal that I don't explain on air, but I say it and it's coded in our tradition. And whether it's coded in Ifa or Otun understands what I'm not saying, whether it's coded in Voodoo, the Voodoo audience, whether it's Haitian or West African or New Orleanians hears it in what I'm saying, but I don't often go into detail. I learned that early on in my podcasting experience. It can be problematic. On our last show, I talked about, you know, the state of conflict and arguments in the Black nationalist community, in the Black spiritual community, in the ATR community, back around the early 2000s, 2005, you know, and how it sort of dissipated 2010, and we started looking in other directions. So I'm cautious. And if there is a way to do it, you know, I appreciate your assistance. I do. I have others that are assisting me right now. My sister Wapani, one of my godchildren and my god family, Chef Bougie and his wife, assisting me right now as it relates to teaching, getting things down in book form, in literary form, in a way that shows respect, gratitude, but also teaches the dynamics of these traditions from the way that someone who is uninitiated can learn how to learn. Because we're often asked that, well, how do I learn? What books do I read? How do I find, you know, we tend to spend a lot of time sharing that. Otun wanted even today for us to share. Greetings, beloved. I hope you got your technology together. Wanted us to share even today more of our gratitude, you know, for our experience, you know, the blessings that have come out of our experiences, out of our challenges. And so I'm grateful for her always. Come on in, beloved. How you doing? Speak your truth. Let me scan my chat.
Buru, Oboye, Oboshishe, Divine Baba Oloye in his absence, family, greetings and honor to my Luo, Prince Baba at the Bayo Latona, and Olari, Ifatoye, Yalode, Egdenike, Oyebola Latona. I'm sorry I was late, y'all. I was running my mama around. You know how it is. So she
Yeah,
needed to go make a quick store run. So we had to go.
I love my mother. My mother don't play that. She know exactly what she want. She's not going up and down the aisle. She's not window shopping. I love my mother for that. Okay.
Mhm.
Going in.
I would look forward to sharing. You said Mosaic. You said that's your cousin,
My,
Divine.
my first cousin on my mother.
Oh,
So
okay, okay.
that's
Hi,
my
cousin.
that's my mother's brother's oldest daughter. We believe she's his oldest daughter. Yeah.
Okay. Hi, cousin. How you doing? No, it was a question about Peace Love 77, Shamafia. I saw you, honey. Thank y'all so much. Um, she had asked a question about beginning to initiate, but I think that was basically, well, to answer your question, and anybody that's looking to start their spiritual path, you need to first and foremost understand, especially if you're looking into going into any form of ATR. Um, First and foremost, It's a lifestyle. It's not a religion. This isn't a once a week you go to Sunday, catch the Holy Ghost, and hit the club and sneak like don't nobody know afterwards type thing. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Um, you walk it, talk it, eat it, breathe it, poop it, pee it. Period.
Thank
It's all that. It's
thank
all
you.
that.
Thank
So not that your cousin wouldn't know that, but I want people to understand this isn't the flavor of the week. You know, this isn't the, oh, let me see this and let me get a little bit of this. There is no easy way. If you want to get in it and receive the true benefit of it, you're gonna have to dedicate yourself. You're gonna have to put that time in, unless you're just content with being a babalawo or a bokor or the huna or their client, and you come whenever you have a problem. Then you don't want to be a part of the community. You want to be a client. You want somebody to fix your problems, because there's a difference. And some people, unfortunately, do not understand coming into this that, oh, this is something that I can get me some readings, and then this is that's not what this is. This isn't magic. As I said before, this isn't Harry Potter. There's no Wingardium Leviosa. Ain't none of that here. It is true dedication. This is about diving deep, looking within, finding those things that you know that are unsavory, that are within yourself, that you want to change, breaking generational curses. It's about elevation, all of that. But it's going to take time. It's going to take adjustment inside and out. It's going to take realizing that some people are going to come, some people are going to go, and it may not be in a prepared way. I'm the type of person that I love hard. If I rock with you, I rock with you. And there were people that Oladeji had to remove out of my life before I could take another step forward. The problem is that hurt. The problem is he ain't do it easy. He snatched them because he knew that I was the type of person that, given the chance, no matter, depending on what they did, I pretty much would let it go because I love hard. So sometimes we have to be put in a position where we have no choice, you know, or as they used to say, sometimes God will put you flat on your behind, so you have no choice but to look up. Okay, so that's basically it. It's about finding what resonates with you. And once you find what resonates with you, research. Look who you feel that connection with, and look at what they're into. Learn their character, what they're about. Do their values and what they represent in life line up to what you value in life, what you want to represent? Because this is not something that you can just, like, a lot of people, unfortunately, when we're coming into the church, or whether you're in the church or out of the church or in the mosque or what have you, a lot of people dealing with spirituality, they're hurting, right? They're coming from a place of brokenness. A lot of the times they're coming from a place of pain, from a place of not understanding, from needing, or basically having things happen, and they know something is going on, and they're not understanding exactly why it's going this way, or why it's going that way. Many different reasons. Okay. So when they're coming into this feeling a lack, like they're searching for something, they're seeking. And when we get into those places, when we allow our minds, or an Ifa, as we say, our Ori, to reside in those spaces, we may, um, in some cases, inadvertently open ourselves up to be led astray to spiritual attack, because we're seeking. And sometimes when we're in seeking mode and when we're hurting, we don't look at what should really make sense. We in essence dumb down and downplay ourselves and go, well, you know what? I don't know how this works, so I'm not going to say something, or I don't know how I'm supposed to do that, so I'm gonna just let them treat me like this or say this. No, baby. Common sense is in every aspect of your life. Critical thinking is a part of all of our survival. Okay, so when you know that something is resonating with you, you feel it. It's not what you hear, what you see, you feel it. But it's the same thing when something is not resonating with you. You feel it. So that's kind of how you start getting on your journey. Um, y'all already know Divine Prince has been here for years. He's here to help. Baba Oloye is here to help. I am here to help, because there are different people, and different personalities are going to resonate differently. So you have some people that want to deal with females. You have some people that rather deal with males. Some people don't matter. But just know that whatever the path, whatever which you feel the issue is or whatever the concern, we are here to help, because as priests, that is part of our job. First and foremost, we are to be of service. And know that when you're walking into this, that everybody isn't called to be a priest. Some people just need to receive a shrine of habit to change something negative in their life, to reverse an outcome, for upliftment, or just for plain protection, for any number of things. It does not mean that they're meant to be a priest. So once you kind of find the path in which you're going, I encourage you to get with someone you can trust. Have divination done. That way you know the path that you're supposed to go and push forward from there. Bit by bit, it's a marathon, not a sprint. So I'm gonna
I,
turn the mic back over.
I certainly agree, beloved. I do, and I think my cousin's question was a little bit more practical, even. Um, Olodumare, for those who don't know, that means God. Um, you can, read, study, get an understanding of a wide range of ethnic groups and ethnic traditions. But in really starting that journey, I think finding someone who's authentically demonstrating and walking in these traditions in the way that you admire or what think you can gain something from, and then finding out where they are, who they're sitting under, or in the best case scenario, go to the person who leads that house, someone like myself or my other cousin, Oloye, Ifawole, or Otun, and get some kind of direction as to how you come in, to the practicing or the tradition. In the most practical sense, I start with the ancestors. No matter who comes to me, what their background, what their ethnicity, generally speaking, start there. The ancestors, in my opinion, they sell this lifestyle. They sell this culture. They sort of prophetize, this tradition through demonstration. So if I can just get people in the mindset to want that ancestral understanding, and then start to demonstrate that in practice, creating sacred space, it typically opens up the higher octaves in the mind and the consciousness, and makes it that much more easy for an individual to hear and to see and to interpret what's being said to them by spirit and the ancestors. And as my cousin said, and then in that space of trust and support, have a legitimate divination done. Tarot cards is not a legitimate divination in these practices and these traditions. It's not. It's not. And even if I were to use bone reading for an example, there are a lot of people out there who are producing books about bone reading that have something to do with I feel, I see, and I interpret. That's not how bone reading works. It's mathematical and scientific, just like Ifa, just like Fa, just like Afa divination. So it's much more complex than that. So there are those who are doing authentic bone readings, and then there are those who are just moving some chicken bones around on the table. And
Yeah,
yeah,
because I can tell you anybody that goes to Eyanifa or Babalawo for divination and they whip out a tarot deck, you better run. Because there is nothing Isheshe in tarot. No disrespect to the tarot readers, because that's a form, but it has nothing to do there. Now I understand that different people operate in a barrage of gifts. Okay. I'm not saying that each person has to have one specific spiritual gift. What I'm saying is, if they're saying this is what I'm practicing, if someone is saying I am Babalawo or I am Iyanifa, I practice Ifa, then you will be either getting a reading. They will have either cowrie shells or puele, obi. You know those things. Okay. Just as whatever what Divine would use when he uses divination according to New Orleans voodoo. The divination tools are what they are if they're saying and advertising they're using this specific system. But no, you shouldn't be going to a Babalawo or Yanifa Boko or in getting divination done with a tarot deck, or vice versa. Whether it's a tarot deck or they whipping out crystals, that's not in line with what they practice. Now, I will say this. That's more along the line of when you're, I would say, teaching. I would never say to no one, oh, don't use this or that when you're doing certain things, because your gifts are your gifts. I mean, as far as saying, when a person says, no, this is what I'm doing, as far as Isese traditional Ifa is Isese Legba, is what it's called. And basically, you're saying, okay, this is what I'm doing according to this. If you're doing an Ifa reading, then you're not using tarot. You're using the tools in which that system has already set. And that's with any system. So, like I said, it's not to knock anybody's gifts. And I get that in our day to day, as we run our businesses and do certain things with our clients, you may have multiple gifts that you incorporate for that. But it's just the labeling of it you have to be careful with. So make sure that you know what you're looking for when you connect with these spiritual workers, priests, or however title they use, because it's work. It is some research, So there's not going to be just you're going to fall into it hands off and everything is going to work. You're going to have to put something into it to really get something back out on that. And again, even if your path is not Ifa or what have you, you have Divine, you have Baba Oloye, they can help you and actually connect you with reputable priests and people that they know, that we know, that will be able to further your growth without you worrying about the proverbial rug getting snatched from under your feet. So there's always a lot, because this community is not that big. The ATR community within the United States is not that big. So a lot of the times people cross paths a lot. So again, like I said, we're definitely here to help. And I was looking at the chat too. Divine, where are you? Do we have any questions? We talk, and I always say it's good to hear from people. I invite anyone listening, watching, please. Divine said it, call in. He gave the number. We want to hear from you. It's kind of hard sometimes when we're always just talking. We need feedback. We want to hear you. Agua Shuri Wori Wofon. Ifagbemeleke. How are you? So we want to hear from you, so please share, call in, comment, something. We definitely would love to hear from you. Anyone?
I most certainly have used, and on the occasion do use, tarot and other forms of divination. I make a clear distinction between the two, between operating within ATR tradition traditionally, and then other forms of divination that you might experience in psychic reading and in fortune telling. I live in an entertainment town. I live in a tourist town. People want that kind of thing in Jackson Square. People kind of want that thing at bridal showers and various entertainment venue events. But I don't bring Loa into that space. I don't bring Orisha into that space. I don't bring the traditional practice into that space, and I stick to whatever centric system that I'm accessing at that time, and I make that clear, in the demonstration. I don't even offer tarot reading services anymore. Because of sort of that confusion and the continued sort of subliminal message that somehow these traditional ethno-cultural belief systems are witchcraft, are mixed up in paganistic belief systems and traditions globally and worldwide, and it's just not true. One of the things that continues to sort of empower me is when my mother is confronted with, the uneducated and in the worst case scenario, the ignorant. When it comes to who I am and what I do and what my demonstration is, and how we are able to come together and meet at the middle and communicate from the middle without conflict and confusion, whereas they're still trying to pray the devil away. They're still trying to pray the witchcraft away. And indeed, still praying away their own remembrance of self and self-consciousness and self-awareness, all the way down to the bone marrow, all the way down to the DNA structure that rest in the traditions of our ancestors. I say it all the time, there would be no church in America if it weren't for Black people bringing these Caribbean traditions into the US and embedding them into religion as we know it in America today. There's no church, there's no Christian temple, and in many ways there's no Muslim or Hindu, or Krishna temple in America that does not give some credibility to the foundations that our ancestors laid in spirit practice, spirit worship, spiritual connection. So it's a thin line for me between, can we all get along in the communal gatherings of a diverse religious community in a quote unquote Christian setting. And that's one of the reasons why I chose that word, the fold. The fold. A Christian is always praying to bring you into the fold, to bring you in, like bringing a soldier into, into that army, bringing you into that number. It's a numbers count for many, not all, but for many. How many numbers can we bring into this, into this fold? But we are the fold. The indigenous community is the fold. Our belief system and practice indeed is the fold. And when we look at the trend for those who are moving away from these organized religious systems as they are and are seeking an alternative, many of them are returning and turning to their traditional indigenous roots. And so we are the fold. We are the new fold, Pastor. We are the new fold, Bishop. We are. And for some of you, that's disheartening. For others who are spiritually inclined, you get it, you understand. And there will be a day and time where we will all come together and be able to acknowledge the divine creators and the Most High as it is, without, seeking to denigrate what makes us individual as people, as humans, as ethno-cultural travelers who bring their traditions and their belief systems to the table of whatever religious or philosophical practice might be in discussion, might be talked about. So again, when I say teach, I did that for the museum. I did that for Louisiana State Museum. I did that for the Presbyterian. I did that for Mysteries in Motion. And of course, those videos are available on this channel. They're also available on my Hoodoo Central LLC YouTube channel. And of course, in my social media, where we talk about Voodoo, we teach the history of Voodoo, the travel of Voodoo, the evolution of Voodoo, how it got here, what it is or is not, what it looks like, what it takes to come into the tradition historically and even, today. But it's not initiation. It's like going to the Smithsonian, going to the museum, and you walk through the Yoruba exhibit. Oh my goodness, and they've got huts and they've got, pottery and shell and beadwork and historic text and historic video, but you're just having a virtual experience. You're having a virtual learning, and maybe entertaining, engrossing experience, but it's not the same thing as living the lifestyle, walking the lifestyle, and initiating into your lifestyle. Exactly. It's like me pretending to be Otun, and I ain't had no babies, and I don't have no titties, and I ain't never been a woman, and I ain't never walked. It's we all have our own life path to lead. So these traditions are a life path unto themselves, and so we don't learn each other overnight. I didn't learn Otun in 2 days. I didn't learn her, in 3 weeks. I'm still learning who she is. She's still learning who I am. And that's, I don't want to digress. that speaks to our inability to build relationships today in the West. And it's carried globally by way of our devices, our inability to be relationship builders. We isolate, self-isolate, and our toys encourage self-isolation. Oh my God, you can get caught up in TikTok for hours before you even realize what's happening. They've even got videos, periodically where, the black guy or the white guy jumps in there and says, hey, you've been on here for a while. You need to get up and go get some water and walk around and put this device there. I mean, it's a pop cultural joke now, how much time we spend in the virtual reality. And the virtual reality is okay for learning, for teaching, for selling, for educating, for communicating, for spreading the word, for spreading the message. But you then got to get off of here and do this in the real world. And I think that's what Otun was trying to get me to do today, was to get us as a community to speak more to what is all this conversation we have here every day? What does that look like on the ground, on the street? Once you turn this cam off and you walk outside your door, what does that look like? I'll tell you what it looked like for me. It looks like right in the middle of my introduction, somebody's ringing my bell and talking to my ring, my ring system, trying to get in, when maybe they should have been somewhere with a device tuned into the podcast, sharing their knowledge, sharing their love, sharing their questions, sharing their information. Indeed, growing our awareness of each other, and then establish an appointment, to get in the house. It surprises me how many people take shortcuts just to come and see me and get into the house. And then I have to explain to them what this is, what we do, who we are, what we represent, how we teach, how we interact in the world. Greetings, One Wapani, my beloved sister. How you doing?
I see. We had a question. I'm going to scroll back. Goat Rider. Yes. He said, "How does the women's role in Ifa, differ from the Abraham faith, i.e., modern Christianity, Islam, in those
Their
things?"
folk tradition. I'll talk about that later.
Hmm.
Forgive me, Otun.
I didn't hear that.
Dowsing falls under folk tradition. I'll talk about that later.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But we're going to
Um,
respond to Otun's question. Say
um,
the question again.
how does the women's role in Ifa differ from the Abraham faiths, i.e., modern Christian, Islam, etc.? Um, and to be quite honest, um, Goat Rider, it's hard a little bit because much of the modern world, in addition to religion, is based off of patriarchy. Um, I would say it would have to depend on the Babalawo. It would have to depend on the Aluo, the Ile, because growing up in the Christian church, I saw women mostly, and when I say in a service role, I don't mean, I mean like cooking in the kitchen,
Fine.
ushers,
Mhm.
uh, past, pastors' aides, things like that. There are more um, women evangelists, prophetess, and things like that today than there was when I was younger, because a lot of the times it was the men preaching and things like that. Now, yes, you had older, like the church mothers and things like that, but they weren't open, active ministers. They were the church mothers. They sat up front in the first pew with the big old hats and all the designs and who could stack up the highest with the handkerchiefs and the fans. That's it. They ate first. They brought a couple of sweet potato pies and argued over whose was the best, whatever. But it was mostly male oriented. I can say that I have seen that as far as what I've seen in Ifa, um, they do speak specific things about uplifting women, and as far as a lot of the deities and a lot of the things that are rooted as far as Ifa is quite feminine. Ifa is adamant to speak on the importance of women, adamant, because a lot of the key components contained therein feminine and based off of certain things, powerful women or female deities, female, energy deities and things like that. So um, I can say that I have felt more empowered in Ifa and being able to be guided with connecting with my ancestors and um, with spirit in general. Spirit Oladeji, however a person chooses to resonate or connect with that entity. So for me, I feel that Ifa was a bit more empowering and uplifting. I know in today's world, as women are way more active in the church, way more powerful, holding positions, going further, and doing a whole lot of other things. Um, but I will say for me personally, because it's different for everyone, I can't speak to that question on everyone because there's different answers for that. Perspective is everything, right? So for me, I found Ifa to be more empowering, more uplifting. I found a lot of my strength, some of which that I had pinned down, and some of which I didn't even know was there. I found that in Ifa. So for me, but I would say it's quite different, and so far I'm loving it. It doesn't mean that it's less work. It doesn't mean that it's more work. It just means that that's what connected with me, with my soul, and I ain't never letting go. So I encourage everybody to find that peace, to find that path that leads them to the very best them that they can be. Because before you even get there, everything else is just practice. Everything else is just practice. So I hope, Goat Rider, I hope that answered your question um, to the best of my ability. And if not, we can keep on going till we get there. Um, are there any other questions from people? I haven't heard much from people today. I need to hear people not calling in. What's going on, y'all?
Can I answer any questions?
Come on, you can answer some
You answer,
questions.
and then you ask for the next question. Come on now. I would say first ATR general and then Voodoo specific. Um, ATR first taught that the black woman is God. The black woman is God. The black woman is God. That's the first thing that ATR, the general umbrella of all these traditional practices of Africa, taught me, was that the black woman is God. That's the first thing. Now, in Voodoo specific, in particular to Louisiana Voodoo, the black woman is God. The black woman is God. And she is the hierarchy from the top down. She is God, Mawo Lisa. He is God, Mawo Lisa. And they are inseparable in Fon, F-O-N, in the Fon ethnic group, ethnic language that we often support Voodoo upon. Similarly in Ewe, E-W-E, Ewe people. So Mawo Lisa speaks to the duality of God. Olodumare, if you understand Olodumare, speaks to the duality of God and the supreme power of the great mother that births all things. Even in our ancestral festivals, in Yoruba, you have Egungun, who represent everyone, men, women, and children. You have tall Eguns, small Eguns, masculine Eguns, feminine Eguns, all three within one demonstration sometimes, indeed. But then you have Gelede, very popular in Yoruba, but also popular in other voodoo-based ethnic communities, Gelede, G-E-L-E-D-E, Gelede, which is the masquerade of our great mothers, Awan Iyami, our great mothers. So if it's being demonstrated authentically, because toxic masculinity has made its way into Africa by way of Islam and Christianity. And you now see sort of this male dynamic. Some of you are under the misrepresentation that somehow the man controlled and owned and dominated the African household. That has never been true. It's more true now because of Christianity and Islam. Western influence, they don't like to hear that. Christianity and Islam represent Western influence. Okay, but in the traditional setting, the woman owned the house, owned the house, and housed herself and her children. Hear what I say, herself and the children. The man had to sleep outside, he had nowhere to go. They had a communal hut for the men, or the man had his own shelter separate from. But the woman controlled the marketplace, the woman controlled the household. That was corrupted through colonization. That was corrupted through the journey of the missionaries. And that's why, for me personally, church is still laden heavily with shadow work for me, because I'm constantly fighting and battling those oppressive extensions to church and Christianity and religion, and how we as overcomers, the new fold, continue to heal and sort of eradicate that from others. So the idea that somehow the woman is behind. I think in Islam, the woman walks behind the man. In Christianity, the woman takes the man's last name, and it is sort of sold off for a ring and some flowers, to the man, who then deveils her. You know what that's about, okay? Who then deveils her, okay? And so if we're operating in indigenous practice, Aztec, Mayan, Asiatic, you're going to see the Great Mother rise to the top as God first, and the giver of life and the giver of humanity. And so, Iyami, that great power of women, is present in all things Ifa, but it's present in all things Voodoo. It's present in all things Fa. It is innate. It is innately connected to those shells, to those bones, to those palm nuts. It's a part of the process. So, when I look at Christianity and Islam and this sort of the lessening of the power of women, making Eve to be somehow wicked, removing Lilith from the biblical record altogether, and then turning Lilith into a witch. All those things continue to sort of degrade the power of women, keep women feeling inferior somehow to men, keep women, supporting a man in their household, or I should say a male in their household, because they think it's the right thing to do to have a male in their household for their children, as opposed to having a man in their household for their children. It keeps us, interdependent and codependent on each other in a way that's not healthy, that doesn't support the dynamics of whole families. We talk about whole food, whole families. For indeed, our women are maintaining wholeness in the family, even when the husbands have been removed, are absent, or are not there. We survive on the backs, the blood, the sweat, and the tears, the power, the iyami of our great mothers. So for me, it's an inseparable philosophy to someone who's authentically operating in Akan, Fan, Ewe, Yoruba, Igbo, Hausa, which has a strong Islamic flavor, but even among the Hausa, we must show greater acknowledgement to our women. And I'm alarmed by the men who see that as somehow some competitive space to keep the idea of, black men against black women in the division of the household somehow being fostered by black women, and black women somehow being used as a tool and upon. And let's be clear, you say to say things about me, oh, well, the homosexual, you know, is the cause of the fall of the black family. And the homosexual is being used to divide the family, divide the household, and the yada, yada, yada. You know, it's always an outside projection. And when you're king, when you're God, there is no outside projection. The responsibility, the autonomy, the stewardship, the authority, not autonomy, the authority rests with you. Rests with you. And we can create and recreate the reality that mirrors our best interests if we want to. We just have to want to. And so when we say that it's a lifestyle, as Lola Nola said earlier, as Otun said earlier, as many other people said earlier, but it's a lifestyle that you manifest because you want to. You have to want to. I can remember the day, the time, the hour, what is it, book, chapter, and verse. I was in California. Y'all heard me tell this story before. Pasadena threw out every Western piece of clothing I had except drawers and t-shirts. But if it was pants, suits, ties, dress shirts, threw them all out. Got rid of every bit. Because I was determined in that moment that this was going to be a lifestyle, not a look, not a fashion move, not something that I roll up in February, not something that now makes me look popular in social media because I have dreadlocks or because I wear African clothes and everybody else in the room named Mustafa and Muhammad Ali and et cetera. No, it's about what you do when no one is looking, when you don't have a camera on, when you don't have an audience, and indeed what you do in your house with your family, with your children. And I'm speaking now to my first cousin, Mosaic, but I'm also speaking to everyone because it's still people, not you, Mosaic, but I just want you to hear what I'm saying. It's still people who are operating in this tradition, and it's still a secret from their mama and their children and their spouse. It's in the closet. They acknowledge an ancestors in the closet. And not teaching it, not passing it on, and are not telling their children why I'm pouring this libation and not calling out those family names. I'm shocked at the people who don't know their grandparents by name, don't know some of their close relatives by name. I'm a little shocked. We're losing it in that regard. Just like people don't remember their phone book in their minds anymore. People don't remember all their contacts and because your device do that for you now. It's very few people who remember their phone numbers naturally anymore. So just think about the family members that are being born, that are transitioning, whose names are being lost to time until you do that ancestry.com, you know, and these names start showing up in the documents and in your results that you never heard before. But once upon a time, old folks could recite generations, 7 generations or more, just off the top of their head. Who the mama was, who the daddy was.
I'm sorry, Divine. Brianna Williams, she said, is there a local? Her shrine is at home. She wants to know if she's in New Orleans, and she asked a while ago, and I almost forgot her. She says she's been there the last month, and her altar is at home. Is there like a public altar or somewhere in New Orleans where she can go and sit and take her time and pray? I figured that you'd be the perfect person to tell her where to go for that.
I'm trying to find your question so I can know who you are in the chat. Are we talking about
Brianna
Brianna?
Williams? Yes,
Oh,
sir.
she's been in New Orleans for the past month.
Mm-hmm.
Altar is home. Is there like a public altar here in New Orleans where I can sit and take my time to pray? I would say there's more than one. Y'all know why I'm hesitant. I'm always trying to be diplomatic when I hesitate. Because, you know, I don't want to start a run on, you know, tourists, we love you, we welcome you, we need you, we support you, especially our double mask wearing, sanitation carrying tourists. We love y'all for sure. But just, you know, these aren't tourist spots. These are sacred places that I'm about to mention. And some are easier to access than others for a reason. Some of them have been abused, and so therefore they're harder to get to. St. Louis Cemetery #1, Marie Laveau's tomb, harder to get to. Somebody even blocked me from being able to check in there from Foursquare or on Swarm. You know, I check in from there and it just poof, it just disappears into the atmosphere. Now, I'm not going to say who. It could be the Catholic Church because they do own it, they do control it, and there is a bit of a squabble going on right now between the Catholic Church in New Orleans and the tour guides, and particularly the Black tour guides. So they may have blocked, you know, me from being able to check in there publicly for that reason. I don't know. So the idea that you can just go in and see Marie Laveau like we used to, like you see in my old video, you can't do that anymore. In fact, I'm one of the few voodoo practitioners who can get in to St. Louis Cemetery #1 without an armada, to a licensed tour company. And right now, no tour companies are given access to the cemetery right now. And when that does happen, I believe that's going to be September 1st. It might have been August 1st, but I think it's September 1st. What I heard was, the rumor is, it's only going to be 2 white, wealthy tour companies that you're going to be able to have to access in order to get into St. Louis Cemetery #1 and see Marie Laveau's tomb at all. So that's, you know, now I can tell you some other ways to access, but you have to email me and contact me off air. Another place, major place, I might even say it might be #1 on your list, Brianna, is Congo Square. You indeed want to be in Congo Square on a Sunday afternoon between 3:30 and 6 o'clock. That's church. That's voodoo, that's hoodoo, that's Yoruba, that's Akan, that's Sangomas, that's griots, that's your doulas and your healers, HEAL-HER, your queens, your kings, your elders, your children, your drummers, your dancers, between 3:30 and 6 o'clock on a Sunday in Congo Square. You can visit Iyami tree, the great mother tree, over 600-700-year-old tree that sits in our sacred space that feeds the other trees in the park. Of course, you're welcome to go there today, anytime during the day, and sit quietly, because usually there's a minimal people there. You might have the occasional, you know, tour group that'll come through there. You might have the occasional dog walker who might disrespectfully try and take their dog up to the tree. But for the most part, during the week, there's only going to be a handful of young people from Covenant House hanging out in the park. Maybe one homeless person. Homeless people don't hang out there like you would think. And it may be those hard metal park benches. I don't know. But, you know, it might be one homeless person at the most. So it's safe. You know, it's quiet. It does have security. But it is our sacred ground, and it is that land that we are fighting City Hall and the Mayor Cantrell to not only keep City Hall out of the municipal auditorium, Morris FX Jeff Senior Municipal Auditorium, but also for the community to determine what happens in that building. So when you're at the tree, that building just adjacent to that tree, that's the municipal auditorium that we're fighting over right now, Brianna Williams. So that's a place. There's also a place new to people and people miss often or aren't aware of, and that's right on the river. Go through leave Congo Square. So take St. Anne, St. Philip, any of those streets, go straight, just keep going straight through the French Quarter all the way till you hit water. And when you hit water, you're going to hit what we call the moonwalk. It sits behind Café du Monde. It sits behind the French Market in the French Quarter. And there's a space there just for the Middle Passage, transatlantic slave trade. It has a historic marker those brown historic markers, historic places throughout America. So I believe it's nationally registered as a heritage site. The marbling on the sidewalk is different than any other part of that walk. It's black and white, almost like checkered board. And that's another place where you can go and sit and be at the river, use your imagination. There will be ships on the water, so it won't be hard to use your imagination and envision ships bringing, your ancestors in through the bellies of those ships, through that waterway into those ports, P&O ports, Port of New Orleans, and further ports upriver. So those are 3 spots just right off the top. My neighborhood, Treme, historic Treme, the first and oldest free Black neighborhood in America. Call it a neighborhood, call it a suburb, call it a community. We are the first free Black community in America. So this neighborhood, people come to this neighborhood to pour libation, to meditate, to pray, to connect with ancestors, to connect indeed with spirit. So
She's E5. So did you fly? How did you get there? And may I ask, why did you leave your E5 at home if you were traveling for so long? Because if I'm gonna go somewhere, my E can come with me. I wrap it up in a white cloth, put it in my purse. That way it stays on my body, and my pot go in my luggage. Carry on. Or was this an unexpected extended trip? I'm just trying to understand how come you would leave your shrine at home when doing that. Also, what you can do, because you don't have your iking. I mean, you can pray that there's nothing that says you can't pray, to Ifa. What you can do if you want, as far as leaving an offering, as Divine said, there's a river. It is a river, correct, Divine?
yeah, it is.
Okay.
And the goat
You
ride,
can.
we're gonna have to address that, bro. The man.
He was joking. I think he was joking because I looked at that and my eyebrows raised. I was like, yeah, okay. But
Yeah,
the man is the head, but the woman is the neck. And I'll let you finish the rest.
I don't accept the man as a head. I don't accept that.
He
That's
can be the head because you know what, the woman is the neck, and we all know the neck turns the head in whatever direction it needs. So okay, you the head.
you're entitled to your opinion. I don't accept the man as a head. That's a biblical Christian reference, especially as it relates to this comment. If Goat Rider serious, I take Goat Rider serious. The man was often the king. The man was sometimes the king. The man was occasionally the king. But to say the man was the king as if that was textbook law and order is not correct. And we have too many examples, too many kingdoms, too many ethnic groups where the woman was the ruler.
And was
In,
a
in
and
Zinga,
was a power.
Nzinga of Angola, Kandase, of Meroe, Hatshepsut of ancient Egypt. I can list many others where the woman was the ruler, and not just because a
And
man
was
died,
feared.
and
And
not
was
because
feared.
a man died and she had to step up, because that was the way things were done. If anything, there was a sense of equality. There was a sense of balance between the two. And in some cases, yes, the woman was the ruler, was the leader, within the dynamics of that village. But the sort of king being the head, being the man, being the head of the hierarchy, it reeks of Eurocentric patrilineal stuff to me. So I don't, there's no argument. The man was the king sometimes, on the occasion, in many occasions, in some scenarios, in various scenarios, however the wording, but so was the woman. So was the queen. And we had serious, fierce warrior queens that are left in the historic archive. of not just Africa, South America, Brazil, the Americas. So I think, again, and I know you, bro, you accept the matrilineal power of woman, in nature and in these traditions. But I just, I think if we're going to truly overturn white supremacy, we have to really be careful about our language usage, particularly as we all continue to grow and educate ourselves more and get a broader understanding of things. We have to be very careful about our language usage, especially now that we know this archive will outlast us and may last forever in the Blog Talk Radio, in the YouTube, in the stratosphere. That this will last. And so 100 years from now, our descendants will be looking at this and listening to the conversation. And like we're looking through our ancestors' words and trying to find a meaning and a purpose, they're going to do the same thing, with us. So we have to be careful. I love what my first cousin Mosaic say, honey, the soul's poet. And she is the soul's poet. Her work, honey, is just, oh my God, it take you there. But I digress. She says, Daddy walks her down the aisle because he owns her. He's given away his property to the next man. Absolutely. Is that a trait that we see in Eurocentric culture? Absolutely. Is that a trait we see in African culture, in Asiatic culture? Absolutely. Absolutely. But often we view it out of context, and particularly now. So I agree with her. It's about white male ownership. You say, oh, but we're a black family. We're black husband and wife getting married. Yeah, but you're following a Eurocentric tradition that was not created by us. That ceremony wasn't created by us. Now, if you jump in the broom or, okay, that's something different. I do Voodoo wedding ceremonies. I bet you didn't know that. I've seen Ifa ceremonies. I bet you didn't know that.
Oloye,
Yeah. So I agree, Mosaic. We have to overturn not only the wording but the thinking. Brianna, there's no problem with her joining live. Just follow the link.
No, she just said I didn't know. Yeah, it's in the link. It's looking at it should be right on the under the YouTube on the link, Brianna. Alexis, I did not forget you because I'm rereading this and I'm really trying to understand your question, dear heart, because it says if you are not initiated in Ifa tradition, but you are a beginner, okay, you're Omo Awo in the practice, should you get married in that tradition, even though you are not fully initiated? Okay, so when you say married, okay, because some people use that term in different ways. I'm trying to understand what marriage has to do with you being initiated or not to E5. And are you asking if you should marry a Nigerian, or I'm really trying to understand your question.
Sure, I think I'm trying to say something humorous, but I can't find my words right now. It's that grade that you're tasting right now.
You don't need to be initiated to get married.
No, I think you're overthinking it. You're overthinking some of the questions. In my opinion, you're overthinking it. Now, can you hear me? Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, for me, the conflict comes in, okay, let's say I'm having readings done, or I don't like to use the word dabbling because sometimes we say that, and we're being shady. But you said, because I haven't found your comment yet, I haven't had time to scroll down, so I'm only going on what Otun said. But you said versus being initiated. Now, Otun, for me, when I hear that question in the way you read it, I'm thinking of someone who is initiated in Ifa, who is doing what we all suggested, living a lifestyle thereof, is certainly going to marry through the Yoruba cultural system. So you're going to have an Ifa marriage or Yoruba wedding, in my opinion. If you are, again, dabbling, learning, a beginner in Ifa, not fully initiated, okay, but you want to get married. Um, there's
Oh,
there's the justice of the peace option, as opposed to bringing Christianity into the mix, or having a wedding at church and bringing that into the mix. So when I hear that question, that's what comes to my mind. You're a
yeah.
beginner.
I think what she's saying, like, should she stick with it? She said it because should she marry into it, even though, like, she's saying, and she clarified. She said, if my future husband um is not initiated, that doesn't matter.
It
That
matters.
doesn't matter.
It matters to me. Again, that
Well, that would be because when I say that, like, I would not say don't marry this person or don't marry that person because they're not interested in Ifa or they're not. And I say that because first and foremost, everybody grows at different rates. So because a person may not be into this now, does not mean that there is not a destiny for them to do it later or that a door isn't going to open up or that their interest is not going to be piqued. And I say that from my experience. Why? Because my husband doesn't subscribe to nothing. My husband does not do religion, and it's nothing against Olodumare. He didn't like it when I was in church because for him, it was a gimmick, it was a means to suck money out of people that didn't have it no way. And he has his own feelings about church and religion and all of that. Does he believe there's a God? Absolutely. But he's very hesitant to subscribe to anything because the idea of imperfect people putting rules on him to live up to when they are doing dirt, like in his mind, this is how he works certain things out. So he has to get to know people. He has to see people for who they are, see how they're walking that walk before any of that. I will say this: since I have been in E5, my husband is not much of a talker. He watches, okay, and he has been watching me walk my walk. He has been watching me live this lifestyle. The way I get up, I do my prayers. Me learning Yoruba, teaching it to our children, implementing these principles not just into my life but into the lives of my children and how we are raising them. And he's all for it. Guess what? He's supposed to be. He's going to be a Baba Yaga. He don't know that yet, but I notice him taking interest in things. He's watching me. On occasion, he may ask a question because some people you have to let them come to that realization on their own. They cannot feel, even if they see that there's something good going on, they want to feel that they've done it on their own. So I cannot speak for everyone, but I will say I would not let that be a deterrent because when you have communication, when you have love, when you are working with an open dialogue and you're working towards something to build together, you don't have to get there at the same time. That's not a thing. And sometimes the issue that comes in relationships and marriages is when the husband and the wife or the spouses feel like they got to be in competition with each other. This ain't no race. My husband is not a part of IFA at all. He provides for me and our children. He takes care of this house. We make decisions together. I'm not no less. He's not no more. I don't look at him no less because guess what? Until he gets where he needs to get spiritually, until it resonates within him, I'm his covering. I'm the priest of this house. And you best believe I'm going to cover my husband and my children until he is ready. And we got to understand that power. And I'm speaking specifically to the women. See, what you got to understand your walk is your walk. My walk is mine. My husband's walk is his. We are just living our lives and our destinies happen to right now run parallel. Okay? Your husband's path or your future husband's path is his path. Your path is yours. It does not mean there cannot be harmony because y'all not on the exact same spiritual journey. In some cases and in some situations, yes, it could make that easier. And it could, change the dynamic of certain things. Different strokes for different folks. But all I'm going to say is I wouldn't suggest that someone doesn't do something or do it according to them being initiated or their partner or future partner not being initiated, because we all grow at different rates, and we got to give each other the grace and the space to do that. And sometimes it can get lonely. It gets lonely. There are some things that I wish I could talk to my husband about, but I know I can start that conversation. He'll just look at me like I got a titty on my forehead. But I still try to, include him as much as possible. So I get that. It can get lonely sometimes, but you got to stay the course, because at the end of the day, this is your walk. This is your journey. And whether somebody's on it for the ride or not, whether they're beside you, whether they're holding your hand, or whether they're cheering you on, you got to be willing to walk it on your own. When it's lonely sometimes, when it's raining, when you don't hear nobody's footsteps but yours, that's when your faith kicks in. That's when you dig deep, because it ain't always going to be a cheerleading squad. It ain't always going to be a spouse or a partner that understands or is walking that walk with you or really wants to understand what you're doing. The question is, do you understand what you're doing? Do you feel within yourself that you are growing, that you are improving, that you know you are on the path in which you are destined, that you agreed to do before you came here? Because at the end of the day, when you came in this world, you came by yourself. You're going to leave by yourself. So you have to be in it for you, sis. And yes, it's wonderful when the men step up, when our partners get in it and we're doing it together and we doing the work. And there's no saying that he won't get there. But I wouldn't make that decision based on where they were or weren't, or based on where I was and weren't, because all of that can change. You're not the same person that you were 6 months ago. You understand what I'm saying? And it can be just like that. So I hope that helped. If not, then let's keep going. We can keep on discussing it more. I just want you to feel comfortable and know that that decision is yours. As long as Spirit says this is your husband and the person that you're supposed to marry, I suggest getting divination on it. I do. Because when we're choosing people to marry, sometimes we look at all the wrong stuff. So I suggest that you get divination done. It's not going to be about who's initiated and who's not. It's whose soul is connected, and is that person destined for you. So that's my answer, and I hope that does help some. And you are very, very welcome. Well, 2 ceremonies. Okay, so if you don't want to do traditional, that is also a thing. Also, talk to someone. Maybe if you know a Ifa priest. I do know our cousin Baba Oloye does ceremonies like that. Not to say for him doing a ceremony, but maybe speaking about it. Maybe some kind of a counseling where maybe it'll help to get an understanding from his side. From a man's perspective, maybe, and then on your side. So maybe something like that. Please reach out to Baba Oloye. He can help maybe explain Ifa ceremonies a little more, but I've seen one. They're beautiful. I got married traditionally because this is before my walk now. I do plan on having a ceremony. I should have planned it before. This is our 10-year anniversary. But I do plan on having a ceremony with Baba Oloye to officiate, you know, to do it that way, because it's something I truly desire. So best of wishes, blessings of positivity, growth, and love. And if you need us, we are absolutely, absolutely here. Cousin?
You
I'm not
talk.
sure.
You talk.
Yeah.
Oh, I wasn't even a part of that conversation. You made it clear I had no opinion, that I couldn't respond to what was being asked. Yeah, you haven't heard me for at least the last 40 minutes because you've been talking over me.
Oh, this works. Okay, it's working. I'm sorry. You were low. I didn't hear you.
You haven't heard me for maybe the last 40 minutes. And so you made it clear you didn't want to hear my opinion. I wasn't allowed to respond. I had no comment on the question about marriage. And then you got personal. You got into your feelings about marriage and husband. And I'm going through the chat. I don't even see that in the question. I don't even see where she asked you all that extra stuff that you just said. So I am look at the private chat. I am completely lost. And I was in the middle of answering Brianna Williams' question, and y'all just mowed me down. And so, Brianna, as a tourist, absolutely, you can contact me. You can contact Our Sacred Stories, Denise. There are other tour guides locally in the city that are specific about Black history, Black culture, Black tradition, and a local born and know where the places to go are. But as it relates to the whole question about the marriage thing, I absolutely do not agree. I accept what the magical book says about being unequally yoked. And today we live in a society where more than 67% of marriages do not survive. People are getting married over money. People getting married over status, class, over I ain't got and I need. People are getting married over culture, over religion, over tradition. And we've had decades of examples of, the Protestant Catholic conflict. Once upon a time, you couldn't be Catholic and be president of America. Did y'all know that? That was a no-no. So the idea of marrying cross religion, cross culture, cross ethnicity is a complex one. And I think we shouldn't just rush into that. We need to go into that conscious. We need to go into that with our eyes open. And when you're talking about someone who's initiating, learning new on the tradition of Ifa, and then you have a partner who's either nothing or not practicing a religion, there could be a conflict. It's no different than someone who's claiming to be evangelical Christian, and then their mate is drinking, gambling, hanging out at the spot. It comes back to integrity, morality, shared value. Now, people can have shared value, integrity, morality, of way of being that transcends race, that transcends ethnicity, that transcends religion, that transcends culture. We like to say America is the melting pot for that. We like to say America is the example for that. But when we look at the numbers, when we look at the conflicts that show up in the divination and the consultation, that's where we get down to the meats and the potatoes about what do you believe about yourself? What do you believe about the Black woman being God? What do you believe about your power and your ability to create and recreate the reality that mirrors your best interest? And does your help me, that's Bible language, does your partner mirror that, match up to that? So I think it absolutely matters, what religion, what cultural belief system, not only the parent represents, because we got folks, oh, well, my parents is Jewish, but we ain't never did, or my family was Catholic, but I ain't never, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about bringing two people together with a diverse inner standing about themselves in the world. It is a foundation for conflict. And so when we look at the high numbers of divorce, now Otun's relationship is going great. We praise that. We honor that. We appreciate that. Be an example. Set a demonstration for other people. I love happily married couples. Love it. Love happy families. Absolutely love it. That's why I like Chef Bougie and Arisha and many more that demonstrate that we can come together and do this. But as a rule, if someone comes to me and they come to me at least 3 or 4 times a month, I'm thinking about getting married. I want to get married. We've been together 5 years and now we're discussing moving forward. Absolutely, that comes up in Odu. Absolutely, that falls on the board in the Afa. Questions about family commitment, family belief systems, and then marrying those two things together. So I'm not saying it can't happen. I'm not saying it shouldn't happen. I'm not saying it shouldn't be done. I'm saying that it can be complicated. For real. And if you're new to your spiritual walk and you come from a problematic background, just like addiction, you one drink away from being drunk again. You're one drink away from going back to your drug of choice. You're one bad moment away from emotionally and spiritually going back to the skills that you've had and that you've utilized to get you from point A to point B. And now you're at point C, and you're new in your journey. You're new in your initiation. You're now learning a tradition, which includes a whole new language, a whole new way of looking at the days of the week, a whole new way of getting up out of the bed in the morning. And you want to now marry that to someone who might not only not be a participant of your particular religious traditional practice, but might be completely ignorant to it. And so in the course of dating, how long do you date? How long are you engaged? How much conversation takes place? How much relationship building takes place? It takes a whole lot of that to get to where Otun is, and to be in a happy marriage with somebody who does not line up immediately with your spirit beliefs. It takes a lot to make that happen. It takes a lot to make a marriage happen. And I'm sure Otun and, I'm sorry, Orisha and Chef Bougie wouldn't mind me using them as an example again. But they have a shared belief. I come out of a household that had a supposed shared belief that was a disaster and a nightmare. We went and sat on the church pew every Sunday, every Wednesday, every Thursday, every Saturday. You know, we were present and hid a mess. So as a practitioner of some odd years of my age, from families of my size, and having seen just scores of marriages, it's something worth looking at. It's something worth considering. What religions we practice, what cultural nuances are we attempting to bring together? Because long term, it's going to take more than sex and love, beloved. It's going to take more than the good feeling of the honeymoon. Once you're beyond the honeymoon, that's when who we really are as people begins to really kick in. Okay, Chef Bougie, I appreciate that, beloved. Otun, don't be upset with me. I just have my own opinion.
I'm not upset with your opinion, Divine. I'm upset with the manner in which you displayed and you expressed that opinion. I feel real disrespected, like you just chewed my ass up live. I'm not feeling that. I'm not. I love you. I love
That's
all y'all.
that's how I felt. I felt greatly disrespected. You talked over me. I kept trying to get my word in, and then you got worked up. You got aggressive about it, and then you started talking about your marriage. I didn't even know that was in the sister's question. I'm still trying to decipher the sister's question. So yeah, I felt real disrespected, and I tried to reach you in a private chat, and you didn't respond. You didn't respond. So you know, all is a blessing. All is a blessing. So I appreciate you all's participation. It's been a lively 2 hours. I think that conversation about marriage and husbands, and that's a trigger for many people. That's a trigger for many people. And in the West, religion is so deeply caught up into what marriage is that I think two people coming together, whoever they are, different race, different group, different cultural background, different ethnic and cultural nuances, but particularly those who are demonstrating ATR, that's something to be considered before coming in to a legal commitment in this system. So I appreciate you all. I certainly do. Yes, Mosaic, being unequally yoked is exhausting. It's exhausting, and it takes a lot to make that happen. Thank you all. Thank you, Wapani. Yes, Buddhism is very neutral, and it teaches the mastery of self. Thank you so much, Univero. It's been a minute since you've been here, but we certainly appreciate you. Yes, indeed. Thank you, Danisha Harris Ford. She said she started her path over a year ago, a little year ago, and have only depended on books and YouTube in her area. There are no houses or ATR community at all. So I thank you all very much for this platform. We certainly appreciate you. Thank you, Fitness Girl. Yes. Rashad Jackson, greetings, beloved. Okay, this still Brianna, but you come under another name. Okay. Yeah, it can be difficult to date outside of Ifa. Just waking up to pray is a loud activity. And it was a lot of noise for me, for her ex. So that's one point that was difficult. Yeah, I've had people that have a conflict with candles burning in the house. I've had people that have a conflict with just coming in the house and taking their shoes off and stepping over where red brick does. And then the first room they see is full of altars and shrines. And somewhere back in the earlier part of the show, I talked about people still masking this tradition from their children, from their siblings, from their mother, from their friends, from their peers. And I'm not just talking about people who might still be going to church. I mean, just are still hiding this, masking this as if this is something that, still needs to be hidden out of fear as opposed to respect. The Goddess Initiative says her husband doesn't practice either. And yeah, we appreciate that. That is a rare find for any race, any ethnicity, any culture, that two people come together and there's no conflict there. And then when children are born into the family, are the children going to be raised your religion, my religion, your culture, my culture? Do we let the kids just sort of grow and figure out that on their own, for themselves? Yeah, you cannot serve two masters. That I agree. Thank you, Red Pill. I appreciate it too. I do. I don't know why when I give my honest opinion, people get so worked up, but all is a blessing. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Oladani Oye. Greetings, beloved. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you again, Miss Jones. I look forward to meeting you all Friday at high noon. All is a blessing. ATR is African Traditional Religious Systems. African Traditional Religious Systems is ATR. Thank you kindly. Greetings until next time. Peace and love.